So we are here to give some prizes to winners. So, and first of all, before my presentation, let me introduce our chair of vetting committee, Mr. Lev Bartemius, and maybe you will say some words on this awarding ceremony and on the vetting committee. Floor is yours.
Yes, thank you. It's a great pleasure and honor to stand here as the chair of the jury, the vetting committee, to honor this year's winners of the CLGE Students Contest. All papers we have received have been of very good quality, and but finally we could appoint 3 winners. Kasper Feedback from Denmark, Laura de Van Vieux from Belgium, and Pavel Wiancek from Poland. And we will have their presentations later. So the floor is yours, Boris. Yeah.
Thank you, Lev. I won't be long. I try to just explain what is our association, what we are doing, and before you get your prize. So CLGE, Working for a Profession, is the title of the presentation. In fact, sorry. Yeah, I got it. We pretend to be the leaders surveyors association in Europe, and we are because we have 37 member countries, so bigger than European Union, sorry. Plus 3 observing members. I come from Switzerland, so I'm not member of European Union, not yet, and I'm member of Geographical Union. You can see here the map representing our members, and we also have tried to have a very close cooperation with other associations like FIG or Epsilon SAN, it's a Young Surveyors European Network of FIG, but also with European associations like Eurogeographics, PCC, the Permanent Cadastre Committee of European Union, other European bodies, and also national associations. Our members are the national associations or the state agencies. A definition: we try to be a representational body in cadastral surveying and geospatial information in Europe. We try to pursue more aims, general aims like sustainable development and public and individual interest for European citizens. We have a new board since 2 years. Last time it was Jean-Yves Pirlot, the past president. Now you see the new board in very fresh people in the fresh snow of Switzerland. Here you see the names. Here present are Dieter Seitz, our treasurer, and also Clemens Kipke, the chair of the interest group IG Pass. You see we are from all over Europe. If I try to summarize our strategic goals, I can say, you will see sentences, but there are 4 words who can make a very good summary of our goals. Influence, visibility, renewal, and member satisfaction. 5 words, sorry. And the way to reach it's proximity, proactivity, and professionalism. So we try to do it since many years now, and we try to keep it alive. So influence. An example for that, we created the UREAL measurement code with a code of measurement for buildings, and now this code has been taken first. It was taken in the INSPIRE directive, integrated in INSPIRE directive, and now it's taken by a world coalition called IPMS, International Property Measurement Standard, who tries to put on worldwide standards for measurement. So you see, influence, we can reach that goal with that kind of project. Visibility. We try to start our own projects. One of these projects is blueparking.eu. It's a project who wants to put for free maps for disabled people for parking spaces for free on internet on a shared platform. It's a project of CLGE. Member satisfaction. I hope we can reach it. We try to communicate with our members through articles, but also in informatics, for example, but also on Twitter and Facebook. Renewal. We are here for the students' contest, is the second goal. Every 2 years we organize a students' meeting. The last one was in Berlin. We are connected to the FIG Young Surveyors European Network, and we have also one member of Young Surveyors in our board. That means we try to keep the gap between youngest surveyors and our association. Students' contest, you see an old picture, I think it was the first one, of one of the formal winners. We can do it without sponsor. You will see our sponsors later on, but I can mention that Trimble is the sponsor of one of the prizes, Esri the sponsor of the second one, and we are the pleasure to announce that we have a third one now. It's a new prize. It's the first time we will give it today, and it's sponsored by the European Global Navigation Satellite Systems Agency, or GSA, that everybody knows. I told you it's the fourth time we're doing that, and every 2 or 3 years, the first time it was 3 years, we organize a students' meeting. So we are now in Stuttgart, 2015. So we begin to have some experience in that topic. This awarding ceremony was already announced on internet, so you can see on internet the result. You can see all the papers of the students. You can see all the papers, some papers of the participant students, and it's a way for us to announce it before the awarding ceremony. But the main topic of my presentation is this one, the results. You already heard the names of the winners, but now we will go on with the prizes. So I try to open it. It doesn't work. Internet doesn't work here. Okay, no, it's not a problem. I will open the internet site to show the name of the winners, but Leif already gave it. So we can go on maybe with the winners. Leif, you want to announce the first winner? I will open the presentation. Then I will ask the winner to come forward. He can present his paper or her paper, and then we will give the prize, and then we will begin with the second one. Is okay?
Yes. The first winner is Kasper Feedback in the category GIS and mapping. And he has won the contest with the presentation and the paper Land Fragmentation on Fiona and the Southern Archipelago. So the floor is yours.
Okay, so my project was called Land Fragmentation on Fiona and the Southern Archipelago. And when I talk about land fragmentation, I mean in conjunction with land consolidation projects. Fiona is also called Fyn, and it's an island in the middle of Denmark, and that's where I'm from. Before I talk about why it's relevant to measure land fragmentation, I would like to talk about land consolidation in Denmark. Because there's been a development in land consolidation in Denmark where it used to be subsidized by the government, but it isn't anymore. what has happened is that there's almost no agricultural-orientated land consolidation projects in Denmark. And then I talked to land professionals and agricultural professionals in Denmark, and saw some papers from chartered land surveyors, and they confirmed that there is a need for land consolidation projects which focus on improving agriculture. And another country that has had some of the same issues as Denmark is the Netherlands, where at the FIG Young Surveyors meeting earlier this year, the Cadastre from the Netherlands, they had a presentation where they had made a website where you could check whether or not it would be feasible to do a land consolidation project. And I wanted to do something similar. I wanted to figure out, to pinpoint areas of high land fragmentation so you could estimate whether or not it would make sense to do a project. And the model I came up with this, it works on 3 levels. There's a field level where I look at the individual fields that a property consists of, because even though my theory was that a single field can be fragmented as well, because it can have an unoptimized shape, like a long, narrow one or a curvy one. So I wanted to measure compactness as well. So that's what the field level does. And at the property level, I measure the compactness of the fields of the entire property. And then at the hexagonal level, that's basically visualization. So at the field level builds upon cadastre data and field data from the EU. It's all open data. And the first part of is the circularity. It's also called the isoperimetric inequality, and that's the equation you can see in the bottom left corner. That's the main thing I use to measure the compactness. It's a pretty regular perimeter divided by area equation, but what this does is that a circle gets the score of 1 and it gets dimensionless, so you can compare it across different scales. And I introduced a buffer as well, because the agricultural data is collected by photogrammetry, which means that it has some issues in the way it's been collected. And also, it could have been a road that went up into the left square there. But when I introduced a buffer, it smooths out the edges. And in that way, it's the same across different properties. And then I weighted the two and combined them together. Yeah, that's basically that parameter. And then I applied that on all the fields on Fionia. And then I put them in a row here, as you can see. And I want you to notice the last one, where it scored the least, the long, narrow one, because when I get to the next parameter, the hull ratio, it would score the highest on that one. So that's why I need the both of them. The hull ratio is a pretty basic minimum bounding geometry analysis to measure compactness, and there isn't really too much to that one. It's a bit harsher on the geometry, so it's, yeah, I then combined the two, and as you can see now, the one that got the highest in the one and the lowest in the other one, it's sort of in the middle now, and I felt like this scale made much more sense when I combined the two than if they were apart. And then, of course, all the parcels needed to, all the fields needed to combine to a score for the property. While this looks a bit convoluted, all it really does is it's a weighted average by area of all the fields in the property, and then the property gets a parcel score. At the property level, I have a distance score and then another hull ratio, and the distance score is the weighted average distance from the main building to the centroid of the fields. It has one issue though, that if I have a property that has one field, then the distance from the centroid to the centroid will be itself. And that's the spike you can see close to 1. So that's, of course, not optimum. But I haven't changed that in my dataset yet. I should do that. And then another Hull ratio. And this is the result. And it's shown with quantiles. And you can see there's an island in the southern part. It's called Ærø. It's very fragmented. And in the western part, it's much more fragmented than the eastern part. And it gets much more, it gets much easier to see when you do a bivariate map, where I show the amount of properties as well as how fragmented an area is. So Ærø stands out again. And when you do a statistical analysis, you get hotspots around Ærø as well. So I would definitely do a project there. And in conclusion, I think I found a pretty reasonable estimate for fragmentation. The way the different parameters are combined needed to, it should be a fixed scale, but I can't do that without the help of agricultural professionals. So I did mine using quantiles, which is not optimal, but that could easily be fixed. And then I could incorporate a few other parameters. And I could have used the national grid instead of using hexagons. Yeah, and that was it.
Thank you very much for your presentation. Then we will hand out the award. And yes. First, I will hand over a diploma for you. Thank you. And Dieter Seitz, treasurer of CLGE, will hand over the prize. And Gerd Buciek from SRI would like to say some words.
Thanks. Congratulations to you, Kasper. It is really a great work you did, and we are happy that we can support it with a check and also with some support to travel to congresses here in Europe to get contact to an international community, which is very important to share ideas and to learn from others. And from our perspective, some things make your work very important. So you used open data. So on this conference we have a huge discussion on open data, what is the value of open data, and as you told me, it was very easy to you to get those data and to figure out where the patterns are. And you used a hotspot analysis, which we use also in handling big data worlds to find out patterns which leads to certain actions. And you can have all this at disposal by reading your paper and to look at your work, and that is from our perspective why your work is so outstanding and so excellent. So congratulations also from Jack Dangermond, he knows about that, and from the colleagues at Esri Europe, and it makes us really happy that you use our technology to do this. So thanks again, and thank you for listening.
Then we have come to the winner of the next category, which is Galileo, Egnos, and Copernicus. And the winner is Laura van de Vieux from Belgium. Please, the floor is yours.
presentation mode.
So, good afternoon. First of all, I would like to thank the CLGE committee and its partners for awarding me from this prize. And this prize is the result of a close collaboration between different actors within Liège University, where I come from, in Belgium, and also advice from In3Systems, the company which welcomed me for my student internship and which I am currently working for. So my paper deals with one of the big GNSS issues, signal loss of track. The idea behind my work was to analyze one of the consequences of this loss of tracks, called cycle slips, for the European GNSS Galileo. Thanks to Galileo being the first GNSS to provide no less than 4 frequencies in open service, we were able to improve cycle slips detection methods, and particularly in harsh environments like under high ionospheric activity. So in a world with a growing demand on positioning anytime and anywhere on Earth, GNSS use has become more and more present in everyday life. Think about all of your smartphone applications, your car navigation, your parcel trackings, and so on. So these common applications, of course, do not need to be more precise than 1 meter. On the opposite, in fields like plane landing, surveying, or precise agriculture, one cannot afford errors of that type. Indeed, if a surveyor implants a building, he cannot afford making any mistakes in determining its own station position, which might then lead to a global shift in the entire building position. Imagine the disastrous consequences of a plane landing a few meters next to the track, or an agriculture drone monitoring the neighbor's parcel. So more than ever, precise positioning is an obvious necessity, which is no longer questioned. In fact, cycle slips are a major issue in precise positioning. So this is why any user in need to determine a precise position must at least be aware of the presence of cycle slips, which, if they are not detected, could degrade its position and thus making it unreliable. So the first question is, what is a cycle slip? Actually, the GNSS receiver system is based on counting complete cycles of the received wave. So it's in order to provide so-called phase measurements, which might then lead to compute positioning. But during transmission between the satellite and the receiver, the signal can sometimes may be lost for various reasons. So if the receiver even briefly loses the signal track, an integer number of cycles is lost, and this creates a shift in measurements, and this shift is called cycle slip. But how are cycle slips a drawback to precision? Expressed in terms of distance, each lost cycle will involve a phase measurement shift of about 20 centimeters. So the slip size can vary from 1 to 1,000 of cycles, and thus can create a different size of errors on positioning. Since each carrier frequency is tracked separately in the receiver, one cycle slip is only linked to one given frequency. So a lot of different configurations can arise when the signal is lost. Signal tracking can be interrupted on one single carrier or on multiple carriers. In the second case, the slip magnitude on the different carriers can be similar or not. In our work, we concentrated more on professional upmarket receivers, which are able to track GNSS signal on multiple carrier frequencies, and which can therefore enable positioning based on Galileo 4 frequencies for every user. Traditionally, two carrier frequencies were used for positioning, but more recently, 3 carrier positioning allowed to enhance precision. Though using a third frequency allowed to partially solve the cycle slip detection issue, existing procedures are still lacking in a few aspects. And one of today's main challenges is to detect cycle slip under high ionospheric activity. And since Galileo supplies 4 frequencies in open service, we might be able to improve once more cycle slip detection algorithm performances. So this leads us to the main point of this paper, the improvement of cycle slip detection. Cycle slip detection algorithms are based on testing quantities, so where the slip is represented by a jump. Those testing quantities are then associated to a discontinuity algorithm which aims to locate this jump. So to detect discontinuity, we need to determine suitable thresholds. And thanks to the 4 frequencies provided by Galileo constellation, a larger number of testing quantities is made available. Moreover, thanks to the improved precision of Galileo observables, those testing quantities are more stable in time. So therefore, more efficient thresholds can be determined, making our quad-frequency detection method far more reliable than those already existing. As our study highlights, there is no perfect threshold which allows to suit all the needs and constraints. So the choice of thresholds must always be made considering the application behind positioning. In our study, we focused on detection under high atmospheric activity, as I already said. But next to those theoretical considerations, our algorithm still had to be validated with real data. So this leads us to the validation procedures. So our quad-frequency algorithm has been tested on quad-frequency Galileo observations from both Japan and Gabon stations. But the Gabon station is particularly interesting to validate the results, since the atmospheric activity is especially harsh in equatorial area. Though one can never speak, of course, of 100% success, yes, those validation results are very promising. So all cycle slips, simulated as well as real ones, were successfully detected. Nevertheless, out of our 50-day dataset, we encountered a few days for which, at some epochs, the detection of small cycle slips of the same magnitude and appearing simultaneously on the 4 frequencies could not statistically be guaranteed if they were present. But this probability is very, very rare. So in real situation, as well as theoretically, this quad-frequency algorithm efficiency is obviously a step forward compared to equivalent dual or triple frequency methods. This innovative detection method opens new doors to numerous research and commercial applications, and every Galileo user, civil or military, will indeed be able to benefit from a highly better positioning, especially in harsh atmospheric conditions. But next to post-processing application, what I did, a real-time adaptation of the algorithm has also been considered. Even if this new constraint requires certain adaptations, such as threshold levels, it still proved efficient. Also, if being aware of a cycle slip's presence in its data is valuable information for the users, it does not exempt him from setting up and solving a new ambiguity again. So detection is indeed only the first step, but correction should follow. So enhanced with a suitable cycle slip correction method and a real-time feature, our algorithm could be directly implemented into software receiver, so transparently providing user with continuous and cycle slip-free data. With regard to precise positioning, this is yet another step reinforcing Galileo's competitivity against other dual or triple GNSS. So to end this short overview, I would like to thank the different committees again for the interest they show in my paper, and also for encouraging young researchers in European space programs, such as Galileo, EGNOS, and Copernicus. I think the full paper is now available online, and my master thesis is also available online for free, so don't hesitate to ask for details if you want. And feel free to ask questions, and again, thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Laura, for your presentation. Then I will hand over to you the diploma as a winner. Thank you. And Tita, the treasurer, will hand over the check. And then I will ask Reinhard Blasi to come forward and say some honorable words.
Thank you very much. Congratulations, Laura. First of all, thank you for being here with the CLGE and for giving us the opportunity for the first time being a sponsor of this prize. It's been a couple of years that the GSA has been working with CLGE, and I think now that the Galileo constellation is growing, we can also grow our cooperation. And so this is one element of that. Now, why have we sponsored that prize, and why do we think that Laura has earned the recognition of being given that prize? First of all, we see Galileo up and coming. So we have a growing constellation. Despite hiccups here and there, we had a successful start last week. We have 10 satellites. We will have 12 by end of the year, early next year. And as of next year, we will accelerate the launching with using using 4 satellites at a row with Ariane launchers, and so hopefully getting to a full constellation very soon. Then secondly, you're having a constellation, it's a nice thing, but we need to understand the users. This is a bit our role as GSA. We want to bridge between Brussels and the rest of Europe and the world, between the users, the politicians, and the space engineers. And so therefore we reached out to one of the most important communities, the surveyor communities, and CLGE is for us the ideal platform to do that. Then finally, and this leads us back to your work, Laura, we need also to look into what can Galileo provide and where is Galileo different than other GNSS. And of course it's not a revolution. The physics work the same for Galileo as for any other constellation, but indeed there are some features that give Galileo a difference. And here, this example for having a quad frequency capability as a unique feature of Galileo, translating this capability into something that can provide, again, benefits to the users based on Galileo. I think it's a perfect example of how that can work, and hopefully also how this will find a way not only on paper but on hardware. And so thanks again, and congratulations again. Well done.
I forgot before to give the pins of CLGE to the winner, gold-plated and collector one. Thank you. And for you also.
Shall we have a photo? Picture.
Yeah.
And then finally we have come to the third and last winner, which is in the category Geodesy and Topography. And the winner is Paweł Wianciek from Poland. Please, the floor is yours.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. As was said, my name is Paweł Wianciek, and in my presentation I would talk about possibilities to measure the formation of rock walls. In my project, I used terrestrial laser scanning method for marking displacement and volume of rock cavities. I decided to use TLS method because it allowed to quickly obtain data of very high resolution and accuracy. All measurements were made in abundant limestone quarry Zakrzówek in Krakow. The object of the research are 3 limestone rock walls. The first one, due to its solid structure and low susceptibility to erosion, was considered to be the laboratory case and was used to determine the accuracy and reproducibility of measurements. The other 2 are subject to natural and anthropogenic weathering. To tie TLS measurement, we mounted 4 permanent control points equal distributed on measuring objects. The network was measured with reflectorless total station, and additionally, for georeference, we made GNSS measurement. As the result of the least square adjustment, I obtained horizontal and vertical point position 4 mm in state coordinate system PL2000. For checking relative stability of the network, during each session, I have made tachymetry measurement of network geometry. A case step in the field measurement was TLS measurement. For all session and selected object, methodology of the measurement was similar and based on TLS with pulse scanner Leica Scan Station C10. Scan of individual objects were taken from one station with a medium resolution 5 on 5 mm, and distance between instrument and object contained in 20 to 50 meter range. Due to installing ground control points on the examined object, it was very significant to check its relative stability between every measuring session. For this purpose, I made the least square isometric transformation of local coordinates obtained from each session from tachymetric measurements and also for initial scanning coordinates. In the result, I obtained Average difference is 3 millimeters with 1 millimeter standard deviation for tachymetry measurements, and this result is range of instrument accuracy and allows to conclude that the network during the project was constant. For scanning coordinates, I obtained differences on 5 millimeter level, but I noted systematic error which may indicate instrumental error in laser scanner. After reduction, this error differences reach less than 3 millimeters. After confirming the stability of the control points, I made registration of individual point cloud and adjusted network coordinates in dedicated software Leica Cyclone. Direct comparison of 2-point clouds is impossible and requires different approach to determine the deformation of testing objects. In order to evaluate accuracy of the various methods, I analyzed measurements of laboratory case object. I made this comparison in open source software Cloud Compare, where calculations were performed using 5 methods: nearest neighbor, least square plane, high function, 2.5 Delaunay triangulation, and multi-scale model to model cloud comparison. Nearest neighbor method consists in searching the shortest distance between specific points. This is the fastest and the least accurate calculation method. Applying nearest neighbor method, I obtain medium distance between clouds 5 millimeters with 2 millimeter standard deviation. This result is based on point cloud resolution, which was 5 millimeters. As we can see, the greatest differences between point clouds appeared in rock depression. Least square plane method consists in local fitting the plane into specific set of reference points. In result of comparison, I obtain average distance between clouds 3 millimeters with 2 millimeters standard deviation. As we can see, in this method also, biggest depression are place of the greatest errors coming up to 9 millimeters. High function method is similar to least square plane method. However, high function method local fitting a quadratic function. The results are almost identical to least square plane method. 2.5 Delaunay triangulation method is based on creating the network of irregular triangles on the set of reference point cloud, after which the distance between point clouds is calculated alongside their normals. This method provides much better results with medium distance between point clouds 2 millimeters with 2 millimeter standard deviation. What is more, this method enables proper interpretation of rock depression with irregular structure. However, noises and outliers are highly noticeable, which is visible as lighter points with values up to 5 millimeters. Multi-scale model to model cloud comparison is based on comparing point clouds within a defined cylinder. Firstly, it calculates point normal based on the points from reference point clouds within cylinder radius. After that, the algorithm computing the all distance between points inside cylinder alongside point normal. At the end, algorithm established distance between point clouds as median of calculated values. This method gave definitely the best result. It also properly recognized rock depression and eliminated influence of measurement noises. Next step of the analysis was to determine the optimum resolution, which allows the fastest field measurement and ensure the accuracy appropriate to serve cavities on objects of this type. The analyses were conducted for 5 cloud resolution, 5, 10, 25, 50, and 100 millimeters. For clouds with density up to 25 millimeters, irregular structure of the cloud is clearly reflected and significant disturbances are not visible. However, for 50 millimeters and 100 millimeters, it is visible that significant differences value, which do not correspond with actual displacement, appear in place of the most varied structure. This table shows the result of all methods for all resolution. It shows clearly that the type of comparison method used has a significant impact on the result. Based on this, I decided that for further research, the best comparison method is M3C2 algorithm, and the object of this type can be successfully measured with resolution up to 25 millimeters. After determining accuracy of measurement, I proceed to determine accuracy of volume computing. To do this task, I use Surfer software where I generated grid model with natural neighbor interpolation method. Computed volumes for clouds with density under 25 meters are almost identical and adopt the values about 3,100 cubic meters, what is really satisfactory. For the clouds with density of 50 and 100 millimeters, the result are little worse. On the basis of this calculation, I determine the relative error, which I identify as a quotient of obtained volume, positive and negative, and surface area. After completing all this accuracy test, I want to show the comparison of another two objects. Let's start with object number 1. Here we see comparison between first and second session. We see big cavity coming up to 50 centimeters. Between second and third, there are no significant changes. And between third and fourth session, we can see smaller but significant displacement. Afterward, I determine the volume of the whole object and 4 areas with major changes. As you can see, the measurement of whole object is vitiated by relatively serious error of determining the volume. This is due to the large surface and irregular structure of the object. On the other hand, on the areas covered by major changes, cavities amount up to 1 cubic meters and error is considerably smaller. Similar development was made on object number 2. Here also, after comparing first and second session, we can see large changes coming up to 70 centimeters. Between second and third session, there's no significant changes. And between third and fourth session, we can see formation of large cavities coming up to 60 centimeters. Volume of these cavities reached the level up to 2 cubic meters. Basing on the result, TLS can be regarded as extremely useful method for measuring volume and deformation of rock walls. It allows to detect deformation with sub-centimeter accuracy. However, to obtain reliable result, it is necessary to provide reproducibility of measurement and choose an appropriate method of comparison. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Pavel, for your presentation. Then I will hand over to you the diploma as a winner. Yeah. And the treasurer will hand over the check. And then finally, Runa van Koevoorden from Trimble will say some honorable words.
Thank you. First of all, congratulations, Pavel, for a very interesting paper. Laser scanning is still a technology that it has been around for a while now, but it's still growing strong, and seeing some papers dedicated to different applications of laser scanning was really interesting to us. So again, congratulations on behalf of Trimble. Trimble is a proud sponsor of CLGE, and also we have been a long-term sponsor of the CLGE student paper competition. And it has become kind of a tradition for us, but we also invite the winner of this category to join our worldwide user conference. That's Trimble Dimensions. You have to wait one more year. We've just announced the new date for the conference next year in November in Las Vegas in the US at the Venetian new location. So congratulations. I'll just hand this over as a symbolic way of showing you that prize, and then the invite for that. Congratulations again. Thanks. Thanks.
Thank you. And photo.
Keep the money for Las Vegas.
You can double it.
Yes, maybe you should conclude.
Okay. Okay, we are arrived at the end of this awarding ceremony. First of all, I want to thank all of us, all of you, sorry, to be here. And as you see, we try to do things for youngsters. It's a goal of CLGE. If you can stay 5 more minutes, we will do something very important now. As I explained you before, CLGE is the leading association of surveyors in Europe. We have also inside CLGE an interest group called IGPARS, interest group of publicly appointed and regulated liberal surveyors. And this interest group is a group of the countries with liberal appointed surveyors, as the name says. And now this group has developed in the past, when the name was Geometro Europas, a code of professional qualification. It was called before Accord Multilateral, and now we have a new version of this code. And the idea of this code is to fix the minimal requirement of education to be appointed in our 11 signing countries. Originally, there were 7 countries doing this code. And now the new version will be signed by the chair of IGPARS, Clemens Kipke, and myself for CLGE. And the goal is to spread it all over Europe. The goal is to keep the 40 countries according to this code and to the letter of intent who is included in the code, who says that these countries are willing to go to that goal, to keep a minimal education for publicly appointed surveyors. It's very important for us. It's the next step after your study to become appointed surveyor in one of these countries. So, Clemens, please come forward. You will say some words in German, and then we can sign the codes. Thanks.
Hello, everybody. I've seen many of us from foreign country, so I think it's okay if I stay in English. And yes, today we have to sign this code. We worked over several years on this code. The initiative came from our colleagues from Denmark, from Henning Elmström, who said this old Accord Multilateral came into his ears, and we want to make something new, more modern. So we, over several years, we made several meetings with Danish colleagues who worked on it, with French colleagues who worked on it. Once was an Irish colleague with us, Croatian colleagues, a colleague from Switzerland, and from Germany as well. The code is in 3 parts. The one part is an original code of professional qualifications for property surveyors. And the next part is a code of professional qualification for property surveyors, but it is a letter of intent. The first part is for those who are already working like this old Accord Multilateral, and this letter of intent is for those who want to go into this direction. The third part is a report. This report is a dynamical part and can be changed when there's something new and so on. The original code is about appointed property surveyors and regulated property surveyors. It is for those of us who work in sovereign affairs, for those of us who take jobs not from the state, but they do their work instead of the state, with the state's power, with the sovereign power, and which are allowed, for example, to set administrative or legal acts. So they act in behalf of the state or of the country. So that is a certain power which surveyors in sovereign affairs have in certain countries. And for those who work in the sovereign jobs, we kept the old education from the Accord Multilateral with a minimum of 5 years in university. We are speaking about a master education. and we are speaking in addition to that about a practice of minimum 2 or 3 years, and we are speaking as well after that a special testation in sovereign and legal matters. We are talking, this code is about as well about CPD, continuous professional training, long life. We have the obligatority of an insurance. We have written down here that we want to have a penalty board if something goes wrong. We have written down here that we have a quality control board and of course ethical code for our work. We do not have much time, so I cannot read the code in its full. It's a bigger paper, but we have some issues for you, for those who are interested in that. And after we have signed the code, we can give you some issues of this with you. And the first step is that all countries who already signed the Accord Multilateral want to sign this new code of professional education as well. And the next step will be that those countries who want to follow this code, that they sign it as well. So let's sign.
Let's go. Thank you. You have the special one. Oh, I have to use it also. Yeah, okay. I go first. Okay. Voilà. The second one. Thanks.
Can you both have a look at me, please, once? Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thank you very much for your attention.
Thanks.
So you can take a code there. There are a lot. So you can read it carefully. Thank you very much. Thank you for your attention. We are at the end of our presentation. Thank you.